Every day, around 90 pupils are excluded from London schools for abusing or assaulting their teachers and classmates. Now, controversially, in the past, some of these excluded children have been allowed to return to class after appealing, but against the wishes of the school. But now reforms of the appeals process mean that an independent panel can only recommend that a child is readmitted. The final decision lies with their head teacher. Some, though, fear these reforms could be unfair to excluded pupils. Sir William Atkinson, who has worked in education for more than 40 years and who runs 3 London secondary schools, went to find out more.
Young lady, are you dressed? Stand over there, please. Are you dressed over there? When I came here in 1995, Phoenix High School was in special measures and branded one of the worst in the country. Your top button is not done up, yeah? So do you want to fix it quickly? Everyone here has worked hard to turn things around, and today the behaviour of our students is judged to be outstanding by Ofsted. At Phoenix High School, we believe that children learn best in a disciplined situation where they're aware of the boundaries of what they can do, what they can't do, and they're aware of the consequences to inappropriate behaviour. Where children are uncertain about these boundaries, discipline problems can and often do result. This footage, shot on mobile phones in other schools, show the ugly consequences when pupils are out of control.
After school, yeah? Call your friend.
A rage come over me, and it just got to the point where I exploded, got my tie and strangled somebody.
I used to get into fights with teachers. I got locked out of the classroom because I got too violent.
I've been a teacher for about 3 years. A young boy that I used to work with spat in my mouth, and then he kicked and punched me afterwards. This is the sort of stuff is going on in our schools.
In just 1 year, over 1,000 London pupils were permanently excluded for bad behaviour. That's around 12% less than previous figures, but still shockingly high. Many people believe that once a violent student has been excluded from school permanently, he or she should not be allowed back. The government is backing this view. April, your mother was looking for you at 6. It has recently given head teachers and governors the power to refuse a child's re-entry into a school they have previously been excluded from. It's a change that will be applauded by many of my colleagues. But does it raise new problems? 5-year-old Adriano is being treated to a day out in Greenwich. He's on his best behaviour.
You want the football?
But he hasn't always been this angelic.
There was that one single incident that took place where he was kicked out, permanently excluded out of the school. They said that he hit the teacher, he was physically aggressive, he beat the teacher.
But Latoya believed their son had mitigating circumstances and should not have been excluded.
I'm not saying that he have the right to do that, but he must get so angry that he couldn't explain himself, which my child have a speech problem. They should have see what was the problem, why did he do that? They didn't get into that issue.
Latoya sought free legal advice and took her case to an independent appeals panel. The panel ruled that Adriana had been unfairly excluded and instructed the school to take him back.
When I've got to the appeal, everything worked in me and my child's favour because exclusion, especially permanent exclusion, I personally think it should be a lost decision.
Latoya actually enrolled Adriana at a new school. But if he had wanted to return to his former school, under the new system, the governors and head teacher could simply have refused to take him back, leaving Adriana with the stigma of being excluded.
What I think was good about the old appeals system was that it gave parents confidence. Our concerns about the new legislation are that it takes away that element of independence from the appeal panel process, will lead parents, I believe, to think that head teachers might be more cavalier in their decisions over exclusions. Parents will be concerned that schools might be excluding their children in order to improve exam performance.
It definitely limits the parents' access to justice and the child's ability to pursue their education. And what this may result in is more litigation, with parents taking their cases to the High Court for judicial review.
pizza bocca.
With the abolition of appeals panels, it is likely that increasing numbers of permanently excluded pupils will be spending extended periods in schools like this.
Okay, well at the Bridge Academy we work really hard to make sure that young people are successful, that they can get exam results, they can move on to work, and we were recognised by Ofsted as an outstanding school last year, which we were really proud of.
So collectively as a group, we got to 694.
But this is no ordinary school. It is a pupil referral unit. For 15-year-old Josh, life became extremely tough after his father passed away. He reacted with violence.
I've been angry from a very, very young age. At my old school, my behaviour was just getting worse and worse. People would be cussing me, cussing my little brother and my passed away dad. And it just got to the point where I exploded and got my tie and strangled somebody.
The pupil made a full recovery. Josh is learning to control his anger and focus on his studies.
I would never have sat an exam really, other than my SATs. And I've done end of the year 9-1, so that's all right. I feel like I've sort of come forward in my education and whatnot.
But this level of support does not come cheap. It's 3 times more expensive to educate a pupil in a PRU than in a mainstream school. Will local authorities be able to continue funding challenging pupils like this in the current economic climate?
We are in pressured times due to budgets, and there have been reductions in funding nationally, and I think that may start to play a factor in the way that some of the heads will be thinking about the alternatives that they provide.
The change in legislation regarding exclusions has serious implications for thousands of London's pupils and hundreds of schools. But does the government really think it's fair that a pupil can be permanently excluded even though an independent review panel has decided it's unwarranted?
We trust head teachers to make these kinds of very difficult decisions, and we want to ensure that the head teacher has his authority remaining intact. So essentially, in these circumstances, if the governing body and the head teacher, having listened to what the review panel says, still take the view that that child returning to the school would undermine discipline and order in that school, or undermine the authority of the head teacher, then we believe it's right to maintain that position.
But do you accept that that is unfair on the child and the parents in that scenario?
Well, what really matters is that in our school system as a whole, we have a safe and ordered environment where children are free and happy to learn.
I hope the coalition government will acknowledge a growing concern around exclusion from school. In my view, it is absolutely right that head teachers should have the final say, but we ought to ensure that there's a fair process in place and children who are excluded from school are put in provision of high quality.